The escape pod tumbled through empty space like a broken toy. Inside, Hana sat perfectly still, her dark eyes watching the blinking red lights on the control panel. She had been drifting for 6 days, maybe 7. Time became strange when you floated alone in the darkness between stars. She didn't cry. She hadn't cried since the attack on her colony. She hadn't screamed either, even when the raiders came with their weapons blazing, even when she watched her home burn. The words had left her throat that day and never returned. Now she just waited. Her small hands rested on her knees. Her breathing stayed calm and steady. The pod's air supply would run out soon. She knew this. She accepted it with the quiet strength her brother Doyun had taught her before he died. Strength isn't always loud, he used to sign to her with his hands. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is survive one more day. The pod shook suddenly. Hana's head snapped up. Through the small window, she saw a massive ship approaching. It was unlike any human vessel she had ever seen. The hull gleamed like bronze metal, and strange symbols covered its surface. The ship was beautiful in a way that made her think of predators, sleek and dangerous. A beam of light caught the pod and pulled it toward an opening in the ship's side. Hana felt the artificial gravity take hold as the pod settled onto a metal floor. She heard voices outside. They were deep and resonant like drums echoing in a cave. The pod door hissed open. 3 aliens stood there, and Hana's breath caught in her throat despite her determined calm. They were tall, nearly 8 feet each, with scales that shimmered in shades of bronze and copper. Their faces were long and noble, with large eyes that glowed amber in the ship's light. But the most striking feature was their throats. Each alien had multiple sacs running down their necks, inflating and deflating as they breathed. The center alien stepped forward. He wore a uniform decorated with symbols that might have meant rank. His scales were darker than the others, almost brown. When he spoke, his voice boomed through the cargo bay. "Identify yourself, survivor." The words came from a translator device on his chest, turning his language into something Hana could understand. She looked up at him and said nothing. She couldn't say anything. The words existed in her mind but died before reaching her lips. The alien's throat sacs inflated larger. "I am Captain Ravik of the Vryn Empire. You will respond when addressed." His voice grew louder, echoing off the walls. To the Vryn, volume meant authority. Silence meant disrespect. Hana slowly reached for the small device on her belt. Her colony had given each child a personal tablet for emergencies. Her fingers shook slightly as she typed, "My name is Hana, human. My colony was destroyed." She held up the screen. The aliens leaned in to read it. One of them, a female with lighter scales, made a sound that might have been disgust. "It cannot even speak," she said. "How pathetic. This creature must be damaged." Captain Ravik studied Hana with curiosity. "I have heard of humans. They come from the planet the galactic community calls a death world. Earth." He pronounced the name carefully. "But I have never seen one who could not vocalize." "Are all humans so weak?" Hana wanted to explain. She wanted to tell them about the trauma, about the medical condition the colony doctors called selective mutism. But the words were too complex for her small tablet's basic program. So she typed the only thing that mattered. "I am not weak." The female alien laughed. It was a sound like bells ringing, beautiful and mocking. It claimed strength while it cannot even cry out. The Vryn know that true power must be heard. A warrior who cannot roar is no warrior at all. They took Hana to the medical bay. The room was too bright and smelled strange, like metal and something bitter. A medical officer examined her with instruments that hummed and beeped. When he pressed a scanner against her ribs, where she had bruised them in the pod, pain shot through her body. Hana's jaw clenched. Her hands gripped the edges of the medical bed until her knuckles turned white. But she made no sound. The medical officer looked confused. "Captain, this creature registers pain. I can see it in the biometric readings. But it produces no cry, no whimper. This is abnormal." "Perhaps its vocal cords are damaged," Captain Ravik suggested. "No, they appear functional. It simply chooses not to use them. Or cannot." The doctor's throat sacs pulsed with what might have been frustration. "Shall I dispose of it?" "It seems defective." Hana's eyes widened. She grabbed her tablet again, typing quickly. "Not defective. Just different." Captain Ravik read the words and tilted his head. Something like interest flickered in his amber eyes. "No, I will not space this human." "I have heard stories about their kind. They say humans survived on a world so dangerous that most species would die within days. They say humans can endure pain that would kill a Vryn warrior. He looked at Hana. I want to see if these stories are true. Over the next few days, Hana learned about the Vryn. They were a proud species who had built an empire across 17 star systems. Their culture valued vocal ability above almost everything else. The louder your voice, the higher your rank. The more beautiful your battle cry, the more respect you received. Children were tested early for the number of vocal sacs they possessed. Those with 7 sacs became leaders. Those with only 1 or 2 were relegated to lower classes. To the Vryn, Hana's silence was worse than any insult. It was a fundamental wrongness that disturbed them. The crew avoided her. When they had to interact with her, they spoke in short, sharp bursts as if her voicelessness might be contagious. They gave her a small room in the lower decks and basic food that tasted like paste. She ate it without complaint. Hunger was nothing new. At night, lying on the hard bed, Hana would practice the signs Doyen had taught her. Her hands moved through the air, forming words only she could understand. I am strong, she signed to the empty room. I survive. I endure. One evening, Captain Ravik came to her room. He stood in the doorway, his large frame filling the space. We arrive at Vryn Prime tomorrow. The capital world. I am taking you there as a curiosity. The Empire has never seen a human before, especially not one who cannot speak. Hana typed on her tablet. What will happen to me? Ravik's throat sacs pulsed slowly. That depends on what you prove yourself to be. The Vryn respect strength. If you show weakness, they will discard you. If you show strength, he paused. Well, we shall see. After he left, Hana looked out the small window at the stars rushing past. Somewhere out there, other humans lived and breathed. Somewhere, her people continued. She touched the window with her palm, feeling the cold glass. She thought about Doyen's last words to her, signed quickly as he pushed her toward the escape pod while raiders stormed their home. Live. No matter what. Live. Hana pulled her hand back from the window and made a promise to the darkness. She would live. She would survive. And maybe, just maybe, she would show these loud, proud aliens that silence could be its own kind of strength. The ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying her toward a world where everything she was would be tested. She was ready. As ready as anyone could be when walking into the heart of an empire that saw her as broken. But Hana had learned something during her years on a colony world, during the days in the escape pod, during her time among the Vryn. She had learned that survival didn't require words. It only required will, and her will was made of iron. Vryn Prime was a world of sound. That was the first thing Hana noticed when Captain Ravik's ship descended through the atmosphere. Even from space, she could see cities built like enormous amphitheaters, structures designed to amplify and carry sound across vast distances. When they landed at the capital spaceport, the noise hit her like a physical force. Thousands of Vryn moved through the streets, and every one of them was talking, singing, or shouting. Their voices layered over each other in a constant roar. Street vendors called out their wares in operatic tones. Children competed to see who could yell loudest. Even casual conversations were conducted at volumes that would have been considered rude on any human world. Hana walked through the crowded streets beside Captain Ravik, and everywhere they went the Vryn stopped and stared. Some pointed. Others made sounds of disgust or pity. Word spread quickly that a voiceless alien had arrived in the capital. She cannot speak, one merchant bellowed to another. Imagine, a creature without voice. How does it think? How does it feel? It probably doesn't, the other responded. The voiceless are empty vessels. Everyone knows this. Hana kept her face neutral, but her hands clenched at her sides. Captain Ravik led her through the city to a large building near the outskirts. The sign above the door, translated by her tablet, read, Sanctuary for the Voice Weak. Inside, the building was quieter. Dozens of aliens from different species moved through the halls, all sharing one trait. Their voices were soft or damaged or missing entirely. These were the outcasts of Vryn society, the ones whose vocal abilities didn't meet the Empire's standards. An old Vryn administrator, his scales faded to pale gray, processed Hana's arrival. His own voice was barely a whisper, damaged in some long-ago accident. He looked at her with something that might have been sympathy. You will work in the cleaning division, he wheezed. Meals twice daily. Dormitory on the 3rd floor. Do not cause trouble. Do not draw attention. The Vryn tolerate us, but only just. Hana was given a small bed in a room with 5 other aliens. They barely acknowledged her presence. In this place, everyone was too exhausted from their own struggles to care about anyone else's. For 3 days, Hana cleaned floors and washed dishes in the sanctuary's kitchens. She worked in silence as always and noticed everything. She saw how the Vryn guards treated the Voice Week with casual contempt. She saw how the workers flinched when anyone raised their voice. She saw the hopelessness in their eyes. On the 4th day, the city erupted in excitement. The Festival of Roars was beginning. This was the Vryn Empire's most sacred celebration, a week-long event where military prowess was displayed through gladiatorial combat. The best warriors from across the Empire would compete in the grand arena, and each fight would be accompanied by battle cries that demonstrated their vocal power. Hana watched the preparations from the sanctuary's windows. Enormous banners were raised. Holographic displays showed images of past champions, their mouths open in eternal roars. The entire city seemed to vibrate with anticipation. She was watching these displays when 2 humans appeared in the sanctuary's courtyard. Hana's heart jumped in her chest. She hadn't seen another human since the colony attack. The woman was tall with short black hair and sharp eyes. The man beside her was broader, with scars on his hands and the cautious movements of someone who had seen combat. They were dressed in plain clothes, trying not to draw attention, but Hana recognized them immediately as outsiders. The woman's eyes scanned the courtyard and locked onto Hana. Recognition flashed across her face. She nudged her companion and they approached quickly. "You're human," the woman said in a low voice, speaking in their native language. "My name is Minji. This is Hyun. We're traders. Well, smugglers, if we're being honest. We've been tracking human survivors from the colony raids." Her eyes were intense. "What's your name?" Hana pulled out her tablet and typed, "Hana, I can't speak." Minji's expression softened. "We know about you. The Vryn have been gossiping about the silent human girl for days. The whole city knows." She glanced around nervously. "Listen, we need to get you out of here. This place, this empire, it's not safe for humans. Especially not for you." Hyun nodded. "We have a ship. We can take you to the human colonies in the Outer Rim. You'll be safe there." For a moment, Hana felt hope surge through her. To be among her own people again, to be somewhere her silence wouldn't be seen as a weakness, it was tempting. But then she looked around at the other voice-weak aliens in the courtyard. She looked at the Vryn guards, watching them with contempt. She thought about the Empire's arrogance, their absolute certainty that vocal power equaled worth. She typed slowly. "They call me weak because I cannot speak. They think silence means I am empty, broken." "You're not," Minji said fiercely. "You're just different. But Hana, you can't change how they think. This whole culture is built on their vocal supremacy. One human girl can't." Hana was already typing. "I want to enter the arena. The Festival of Roars." Both Minji and Hyun stared at her. Then Hyun laughed, a short bark of disbelief. "You're joking. The festival is for their greatest warriors. No outsider has ever competed. And you," he gestured at her small frame. "No offense, but you'd be crushed." Hana met his eyes and typed, "Humans are from a death world. We are stronger than we look." Minji shook her head. "Even if that's true, they'd never let you enter. You can't even announce your challenges. The whole point of the festival is displaying vocal power alongside combat skill." "Then I will show them that combat is enough," Hana typed. "Help me register, please." The 2 smugglers exchanged glances. Finally, Minji sighed. "You're either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. Fine, we'll help you. But Hana, this is going to be dangerous. The Vryn don't like being challenged, especially by someone they consider inferior." "Good," Hana typed. The registration process was chaos. Minji and Hyun used forged documents and bribed officials to get Hana's name on the roster. When word spread that a voiceless human was entering the festival, the news exploded across the capital. At first, people thought it was a joke. Then they thought it was an insult. By the time the truth was confirmed, the entire city was talking about it. General Thross, the supreme commander of the Vryn military, gave a public address. His voice boomed across every screen and speaker in the capital. He had 7 vocal sacs, the maximum possible, and his voice could literally shatter glass. "Let this human creature enter," he roared. "Let it face our warriors and learn humility. The Festival of Roars will demonstrate once and for all that the Vryn Empire's superiority is absolute. Vocal power is true power. Silence is weakness, and weakness will be crushed." The crowd roared their approval. Thousands of voices joined together in a sound that shook buildings. Hana watched the broadcast from the sanctuary. She felt the weight of what she had done settling on her shoulders. The entire empire would be watching. If she failed, she would confirm every prejudice they held about the voiceless. If she somehow succeeded, she didn't know what would happen. That night, Minji and Hyun returned with training equipment. "If you're really doing this," Minji said, "then we're going to prepare you properly." They took Hana to an abandoned warehouse in the lower city. There, they set up a training area. Hyun had been a Marine before becoming a smuggler, and he knew combat. He watched Hana move through basic exercises, and his eyes widened. "How are you doing that?" he asked. "You're moving like you're under normal gravity, but Vrin Prime's gravity is 30% lower than Earth's." Hana typed, "To me, this feels easy." Over the next days, they trained. Hana showed them what life on a colony world had taught her. She lifted weights that made Hyun struggle. She ran for hours without stopping. When Minji accidentally cut her hand on a piece of metal, Hana calmly cleaned and bandaged the wound without flinching at the blood. "Your pain tolerance is inhuman," Minji muttered, then laughed at her own words. "I mean, it's perfectly human. That's the point, isn't it? You're from Earth, a world so dangerous that surviving childhood there makes you harder than most species' soldiers." Hyun taught her fighting techniques. "The Vrin are bigger and stronger than average," he explained. "But they rely heavily on intimidation. Their whole fighting style is built around sonic attacks and roared challenges. They expect their enemies to be afraid. You need to use that against them." Hana nodded and continued training. Each night she returned to the sanctuary exhausted but determined. The other voice-weak aliens began to watch her with something like hope in their eyes. Word had spread even here. One of their own was going to fight. On the night before the festival began, Hana sat alone in the warehouse. She thought about Doyun. She thought about her destroyed colony. She thought about every Vrin who had looked at her with disgust, every dismissive comment, every casual cruelty. She pulled out her tablet and wrote something she would never show anyone. "I am not fighting for myself alone. I am fighting for everyone who has been called weak for being different. I am fighting to prove that strength comes in many forms, and I am fighting to show them that silence can roar louder than any voice." The Festival of Roars would begin tomorrow. The whole empire would watch, and Hana would step into the arena without speaking a single word. She was ready. The grand arena of Vrin Prime could hold 200,000 spectators. Every seat was filled. Hana stood in the preparation chamber beneath the arena floor, listening to the thunder of voices above. The sound was overwhelming, a physical pressure that pushed against her ears. But she had learned to endure overwhelming things. Other fighters prepared in their own chambers. She could hear them warming up their vocal cords, practicing their battle cries. The walls shook with the force of their roars. These were the Empire's finest warriors, and they were very, very loud. Minji appeared at the chamber door. Her face was pale. "Hana, you can still back out. No one would blame you. Your first opponent is a champion named Vorath. He's won 12 tournaments. He's killed 3 opponents in the ring, and his war cry can rupture eardrums." Hana picked up her tablet. "I know what I'm doing." "I hope so," Minji whispered. "Because the whole galaxy is watching now. This isn't just the Empire anymore." When news spread that a human was fighting in the festival, news agencies from 50 systems picked up the story. "You're representing all of us, all humans." That should have made Hana more nervous. Instead, it made her calm. The pressure of representing her entire species was so enormous that it looped back around to simplicity. All she had to do was fight. One opponent at a time, one moment at a time. The arena master's voice boomed through the preparation chamber. "Fighter Hana, you are called." The floor beneath her feet began to rise, lifting her up through the arena on a platform. Light exploded around her as she emerged into the massive arena. 200,000 Vrin voices hit her at once, a wall of sound that would have driven most species to their knees. They were laughing, all of them. The entire empire was laughing at her. Hana looked small in the vast arena. She wore simple combat clothes that Hyun had found for her. No armor, no weapons, just herself. Across the arena, her opponent emerged on his own platform. Vorath was massive. He stood nearly 9 feet tall with scales like polished emeralds. 6 vocal sacs ran down his throat, inflating and deflating with each breath. He raised his arms to the crowd and they roared their approval. He was a hero, a legend. The announcer's voice filled the arena. In the name of the Festival of Roars, we have a special exhibition match. The human called Hana, who possesses no voice, has dared to enter our sacred competition. Let us show her the true meaning of strength. The crowd's laughter grew louder. Some were chanting, "Voiceless! Voiceless!" in mocking tones. Vorath approached the center of the arena. By tradition, opponents would meet and exchange battle cries before combat began. This was considered the most important part of the fight, the demonstration of vocal dominance. Hana walked to meet him. She stopped 3 meters away and waited. Vorath's throat sacs inflated to enormous size. Then he unleashed his war cry. The sound was incredible. It wasn't just loud, it was a weapon. The sonic force of it created visible ripples in the air. Sand on the arena floor jumped and scattered. In the lower seats, some spectators covered their ears in pain. The cry went on for 10 seconds. 15, 20. It echoed off the arena walls and built on itself until it seemed like reality itself was shaking. Then it stopped. Silence fell. Vorath looked at Hana expectantly. It was her turn to respond. The entire empire waited to see what the voiceless human would do. Hana looked up at Vorath. She didn't even open her mouth. She simply stood there, perfectly still, perfectly silent. Her dark eyes were calm. The crowd's laughter turned to confused muttering. What was this? Was she frozen in fear? Was she giving up before the fight even began? Vorath's expression shifted from confidence to anger. "You mock me with your silence," he roared. "You mock the festival itself. Fight me properly or forfeit." Hana raised her hands and signed something. Of course, no one in the arena understood human sign language, but the gesture was clear enough. She was ready. The battle horn sounded. The fight began. Vorath charged immediately, his massive fists raised. He was fast for his size, but Hana was faster. She moved like water flowing around his attack. On Earth's heavier gravity, she had learned to move efficiently, to conserve every bit of energy. Here in Vryn Prime's lighter gravity, she felt almost weightless. Vorath swung again. Hana ducked under the blow and struck his knee with a precise kick. Not hard enough to damage, but hard enough to make him stumble. The crowd gasped. "Stand still and fight," Vorath bellowed. He unleashed another sonic attack, a focused blast of sound aimed directly at Hana. The attack would have stunned most species. But humans had evolved on a world with thunder that could shake mountains. Their hearing was built to withstand intense pressure. Hana felt the sonic blast hit her and pushed through it. Her ears rang, but she didn't stop moving. She closed the distance while Vorath was recovering from his attack. She struck 3 times in rapid succession. Ribs, solar plexus, throat. Not the vocal sac, she was careful about that. She didn't want to permanently damage him. "Just stop him." Vorath staggered back, wheezing. His eyes were wide with shock. How had this tiny creature hurt him? He was a Vryn warrior. He was trained and tested and proven. The crowd had gone completely silent. No one was laughing now. Vorath roared in frustration and rushed forward with all his strength. Hana waited until the last second, then dropped low and used his own momentum against him. It was a move called a sacrifice throw in human martial arts. She let gravity do most of the work. Vorath crashed to the ground hard enough to knock the wind from his lungs. Before he could recover, Hana was on him. She placed her hand on his throat just above the vocal sacs. Not pressing, just resting there. The threat was clear. She looked into his eyes and slowly shook her head. No more. Vorath stared up at her. In that moment, he understood. This human could have damaged his vocal sacs. She could have taken away his voice. But she chose not to. The mercy was somehow more devastating than any injury. "I yield," he whispered, his voice barely audible. For the first time in his career, Vorath surrendered. The arena erupted. But it wasn't laughter anymore. It was shock, confusion, the sound of 200,000 certainties being shaken. Hana offered her hand to Vorath. After a moment, he took it and let her help him up. They stood together in the center of the arena, and the crowd didn't know how to react. The announcer's voice finally broke the silence. "Victory. To the human, Hana." Hana walked off the arena floor in complete silence. No celebration. No showboating. She had simply done what needed to be done. In the preparation chamber, Minji and Hyun were waiting. Minji grabbed her in a fierce hug. "That was incredible. Do you understand what you just did? You beat one of their champions without making a sound." But Hana knew this was only the beginning. She had won one fight. The festival lasted a week. and she had just made powerful enemies. High above the arena, in the Emperor's viewing box, an old Vryn watched the replay of the fight. Emperor Vral had ruled for 60 years. He had seen countless battles, but he had never seen anything like this. "Find me information about Earth," he said quietly to his advisors. "I want to know everything about the world that produced that girl." In a medical facility across the city, a Vryn scientist named Quan received an urgent summons from the military. They wanted him to examine the human fighter to explain how she had defeated Vorath. Quan had studied xenobiology for 20 years, and he knew more about alien species than most Vryn alive. When he accessed the files about Earth, his eyes widened. Then he started to laugh, though there was no humor in it. "Oh no," he muttered. "Oh no, we've made a terrible mistake." Over the next 3 days, Hana fought twice more. Each time she faced stronger opponents. Each time she won in silence. The crowd stopped laughing. They stopped mocking. Instead, they watched with something like fear. Her opponents would roar and blast her with sonic attacks. She would endure and strike back with precision. They would try to intimidate her with their size and strength. She would use technique and leverage and the simple fact that her body was built for a world with more gravity. After the third fight, a young Vryn noble approached Hana as she left the arena. Her scales were pale silver, and she moved with the hesitant grace of someone not used to approaching outcasts. "My name is Sola," she said softly. Her voice was gentle, almost a whisper by Vryn standards. "I was born with only 2 vocal sacs. In our society, that makes me worthless. I've watched every one of your fights." She paused. "Will you teach me?" "Your way of being strong?" Hana studied her for a long moment. Then she pulled out her tablet. "Why?" "Because I'm tired of being told I'm weak," Sola said. "Because you've shown me that strength doesn't require volume. Because I want to be like you." Hana thought about Doyen, about how he had taught her sign language, about how he had shown her that silence could be powerful. She typed, "Meet me tomorrow before dawn. The old warehouse in the lower city. Bring comfortable clothes." Sola's eyes lit up. "Thank you." As word of Hana's victory spread, something unexpected began to happen throughout the Empire. The voice weak, the ones who had been dismissed and degraded their entire lives, started to hope. If a completely silent human could defeat Vryn champions, what did that say about the Empire's core beliefs? In the lower districts, quiet conversations began. Quiet because those having them had learned to stay quiet their whole lives. But the conversations were there, growing, spreading. Meanwhile, General Thros watched recordings of Hana's fights over and over. His pride was wounded. The Empire's pride was wounded. This could not stand. He made a decision. "I will face her myself," he declared to his officers. In the final championship bout, "I will show the galaxy that Vryn supremacy is absolute. I will show them that silence is weakness, and weakness will be crushed by the strongest voice in the Empire." The news spread quickly. The final fight of the festival would be General Thros, 7-sack champion and supreme commander, against Hana, the voiceless human from the Deathworld. The entire galaxy would be watching, and neither side could afford to lose. The warehouse had become a strange kind of sanctuary. Every morning before dawn, Hana met Sola there to train. But as the days passed, others began to appear. First 1 or 2, then a dozen, then dozens. They were all voice weak. Vryn with damaged vocal cords. Aliens from species that couldn't roar. Beings who had been dismissed and degraded their entire lives because they couldn't meet the Empire's vocal standards. They came to watch Hana train. They came to learn. And slowly, carefully, they came to believe that maybe strength could exist without volume. Hana showed them human fighting techniques. She demonstrated how to use an opponent's size against them. She taught them that endurance mattered more than raw power, that technique could overcome brute force. And she did it all in silence, communicating through gestures and occasional typed words. Sola proved to be a dedicated student. Despite her noble upbringing, she threw herself into the training with determination. "My family was ashamed of me," she told Hana one morning, speaking quietly so only they could hear. 2 vocal sacs, just 2. My father tried to hide me from public events. My mother suggested I undergo surgery to enhance my vocal cords, even though the procedure fails more often than it succeeds. She paused. "When I watched you fight, I realized something. My family's shame is their problem, not mine." Hana typed on her tablet. "You are not defined by their expectations." "Neither are you," Sola replied with a small smile. But not everyone in the Empire was inspired by Hana's victories. In the military command center, General Thros studied tactical reports with growing alarm. His intelligence officers had brought him disturbing news. "Sir," one officer reported, "we're detecting unusual movement in the border systems. 3 separate factions, the Kalesh Confederacy, the Broken Moon Clans, and the Zhren Collective, are mobilizing their fleets. They appear to be moving toward Vryn space. Why now?" Thros demanded. "We've kept those scavengers at bay for decades." "Because they're watching the festival, sir. They're seeing what we're seeing. A human girl defeating our champions. They interpret it as weakness." Thros's throat sacs inflated with rage. "One small human does not make us weak." "With respect, sir," another officer said carefully, "the human is not the problem. Our response to her is the problem. We've built our entire culture on vocal supremacy. Now that foundation is being questioned. Our enemies see the doubt and they're moving to exploit it." Thros slammed his fist on the table. "Then I will remove the doubt. When I face this human in the final bout, I will crush her. I will show the galaxy that the Vryn Empire is as strong as ever." But in the privacy of his own quarters that night, Thros watched recordings of Hana's fights. He watched them over and over, analyzing every move, and a small voice in the back of his mind whispered uncomfortable truths. The human was good, very good. She didn't rely on size or vocal intimidation. She simply fought with a level of skill and endurance that seemed almost superhuman. Thros pushed the thoughts away. He had 7 vocal sacs. He was the supreme commander. He had never lost a fight in his life. One silent human girl would not change that. Across the city, in the Imperial Palace, Emperor Vryle held a private meeting with the scientist Quan. The scientist had brought extensive files about Earth and its inhabitants. "Your Majesty," Quan began, "I need to explain something that most of the Empire doesn't understand. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. Do you know what that means?" "It means the planet is dangerous," Vryle replied. "Dangerous is insufficient. Your Majesty, Earth is one of the most hostile planets in the known galaxy that still supports complex life. Its gravity is 0.2 units higher than galactic standard. Its atmosphere has higher oxygen content than most species require. Its weather systems are violent and unpredictable. It has thousands of species that evolved specifically to hunt and kill other complex life forms." Quan pulled up holographic displays. "Humans evolved as persistence predators on this world. Their bodies are built to endure. They can survive injuries that would kill most species. They can go days without food or water. They have specialized cooling systems that let them run for hours without stopping. Their pain tolerance is roughly 3 times higher than a Vryn's." Emperor Vryle studied the displays with growing concern. "Are you saying that every human possesses these abilities?" "Every single one. The girl in the arena isn't exceptional among her species. She's average. She's a teenager who survived a colony attack and spent days in an escape pod without losing her mind. To humans, that's unfortunate but manageable. To most species, it would be fatal." "Then why have we never heard of this before?" Quan hesitated. "Because humans are rare in this part of space. Their colonies are small and scattered. And because," he paused, "because we dismissed them. They don't have particularly loud voices. Their language isn't sonically impressive. By our standards, by Vryn standards, they seemed unremarkable. We never looked deeper." Vryle was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, "What you're telling me is that we've been mocking an apex predator species." "Yes, Your Majesty. And now their example is inspiring dissent among our own voice-weak population." "Yes, Your Majesty. And our enemies are watching all of this, seeing our society fracture." "Yes, Your Majesty." Vryle stood and walked to the window overlooking the city. He could see the grand arena in the distance, lit up for the continuing festival. If General Thros defeats this human, it might restore confidence in our traditional values. But if he loses, Your Majesty, I fear the Empire will face a reckoning, not just from external enemies but from within. The next day, Hana received an unexpected summons. Imperial guards arrived at the warehouse and escorted her to the palace. Minji and Hyun tried to follow but were turned away. Hana went alone, her tablet clutched in one hand. The throne room was enormous and designed with perfect acoustics. Every sound echoed and amplified. Emperor Vryle sat on a raised platform, his scales showing the golden tint of great age. He was smaller than Hana expected, and his voice, when he spoke, was surprisingly gentle. "Hana of Earth," he said, "you have caused quite a disturbance in my empire. Hana typed. I only wanted to prove I wasn't weak. And you have proven that, repeatedly. But I wonder if you understand the consequences of your actions. Vrail gestured, and holographic displays appeared showing star maps. 3 hostile factions are moving fleets toward our borders. They see our internal unrest as opportunity. Your victories have inspired hope in some, but also doubt in others. You've destabilized an empire, Hana typed carefully. An empire built on treating others as lesser was already unstable. Vrail's eyes narrowed. Then surprisingly he laughed. It was a soft sound, nothing like the booming laughter of younger Vryn. You're right, of course. I've ruled for 60 years and I've known for at least 20 that our vocal supremacy doctrine was flawed. But traditions are difficult to change. People cling to them because change is frightening. He stood and walked down from his platform, approaching Hana. For a moment she tensed, ready to defend herself, but Vrail simply stopped a respectful distance away. Tomorrow you will face General Thras in the championship bout. He is the finest warrior in the Empire and has never been defeated. He is also a proud man whose pride... I cannot tell you to lose. That would be dishonorable, but I want you to understand what's at stake. If you win, the Empire may fall apart. If you lose, those you've inspired will lose hope. Hana typed. Then what should I do? Fight honestly. Fight with honor. Whatever happens after that, we will face together. As Hana left the palace, she found Minji and Hyun waiting anxiously outside. With them was someone unexpected, a human man in a military uniform. He was in his 30s with the bearing of someone used to command. Hana, Minji said. This is Commander Junho. He's been searching for survivors from the colony raids. He arrived in system this morning with a small fleet. Junho stepped forward. We picked up the festival broadcasts light years away. When I saw a human girl fighting in the arena, I couldn't believe it. I've brought 3 frigates and a support ship. We're here to extract you if needed. Before Hana could respond, a younger officer pushed forward. He was staring at Hana with tears in his eyes. Hana, is it really you? She recognized him. Taiho. He had been her friend in the colony, always trying to make her smile, always signing to her even when others didn't bother to learn. She thought he had died in the attack. She typed rapidly, Taiho! You're alive! He laughed and signed back at her, his hands moving in the familiar patterns. So are you, and apparently you've started a revolution. They moved to a secure location where they could talk freely. Hunyo explained the situation. The Vryn Empire's enemies are mobilizing. We've detected at least 40 warships heading toward Vryn Prime. They'll arrive in approximately 30 hours, right around the time of your championship fight. They're coordinating their attack with the festival, Hyun said grimly. Maximum psychological impact. The Vryn military is spread thin, Junho continued. Most of their fleet is on the borders. Vryn Prime itself only has a small defense force. If those hostile fleets attack together, the capital could fall. What about your ships? Minji asked. 3 frigates? Against 40 warships? We'd be destroyed. Junho looked at Hana. I came here to rescue 1 survivor. I didn't expect to arrive in the middle of a crisis. Hana thought about everything she had seen. The voice weak who had come to her training sessions, finding hope for the first time in their lives. Sola, who was learning that her worth wasn't determined by her vocal cords. Even Captain Ravik, who had shown curiosity instead of contempt, who had given her a chance. She typed, We need to help them. Help the Vryn? Yunyo looked shocked. They've treated you terribly. They've enslaved human workers in their outer colonies. Why would we help them? Because if we don't, thousands will die. And because showing them mercy might change their minds better than defeating them ever could. Taiho signed, That's the Hana I remember. Always trying to save everyone. It's decided then, Junho said, though he didn't look happy. We'll coordinate with the Vryn defense fleet. It won't be enough, but it's better than nothing. That night, Hana stood on a balcony overlooking the city. Tomorrow she would face General Thras. Tomorrow enemy fleets would arrive. Tomorrow everything would change. Sola found her there. I heard about the coming attack, the young Vryn said quietly. Everyone's afraid, but I'm glad you're here. Whatever happens tomorrow, you've already changed things. You've shown us that we can be strong without roaring. That's worth something. Hana typed, I'm scared too. That's okay. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it. Sola smiled. A wise human taught me that. Far above, in orbit, sensors began detecting the first enemy ships entering the system. The galaxy held its breath. Tomorrow would bring the end of something and the beginning of something else. No one knew which would prevail. The morning of the championship dawned clear and bright over Vryn Prime. In orbit, 40 enemy warships hung like vultures waiting. They had arrived during the night, taking up positions just outside weapons range. The message was clear. They were waiting to see what happened in the arena before they struck. Hana stood in the preparation chamber, going through her warm-up routine. Her body felt loose and ready. Her mind was calm. She had faced death before in the escape pod, in the colony attack. This was just another challenge to survive. Minji entered, her face grim. The enemy fleets are holding position. Junho's ships are coordinating with the Vryn defense forces, but it's not enough. When the attack comes, and it will come, we'll be vastly outnumbered. Hana typed. Then we need to make sure there's something worth defending when it's over. You still think you can beat Thros? I think I have to try. High above the arena in the command center, General Thros prepared for battle. He had spent the entire night training his vocal cords, practicing the most devastating sonic attacks known to Vryn warfare. He wore ceremonial armor that amplified his voice even further. He was ready to destroy the human who had humiliated his empire. But when his aide brought him the latest intelligence reports, Thros felt cold dread creep into his hearts. The enemy fleets weren't just watching. They were coordinating, waiting for the Empire to be at its most vulnerable. All attention focused on the arena before they struck. This is my fault, he realized aloud. I became so obsessed with defeating one human that I left the Empire exposed. Sir, the fight is about to begin. The Emperor expects you in the arena. Thros looked at his reflection. 7 vocal sacs. Supreme Commander. Undefeated champion. But what did any of that matter if the capital fell while he was busy proving a point? The arena was packed beyond capacity. Every seat filled, every standing space occupied. Holographic displays broadcast the event to billions across the Empire and beyond. This was the most watched event in Vryn history. Emperor Vrel sat in the royal box, his expression unreadable. Beside him, scientist Quan whispered, "Whatever happens here today will reshape the Empire." "I know," Vrel replied quietly. The announcer's voice boomed across the arena. "Citizens of the Vryn Empire, honored guests from across the galaxy, today we witness the championship bout of the Festival of Roars. General Thros, Supreme Commander and 7-sack champion, versus Hana of Earth, the silent warrior who has challenged everything we believe." Hana emerged onto the arena floor. The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some cheering, some booing, most simply watching in tense silence. She looked small and fragile in the enormous space. Then General Thros emerged and the arena erupted. He stood 9.5 feet tall, his armor glittering in the sun. His 7 vocal sacs pulsed with power. He raised his arms and the crowd roared with him. They met in the center of the arena. By tradition, this was when they would exchange battle cries. Thros inflated his vocal sacs to maximum size and unleashed a sound that had never been heard before. He combined all 7 sacs in a harmonized attack that was part roar, part sonic weapon, part war song. The noise was so intense that it cracked the reinforced glass in the lower viewing sections. Sand blasted away from him in waves. The attack went on for 30 seconds. When it finally ended, silence fell across the arena. Dust settled. Every eye turned to Hana.